can guess what this graph is depicting? All right, I'll just tell you. It's a chart showing the attention of college students during a 50-minute lecture. So as you'll notice, most students lose focus after about 10 minutes. And at 40 minutes, it spikes back up just a little bit. And the leading theory is that the professor says something like, in summary or in conclusion, which sparks students' interest and makes them listen. And those transition words are called attention reset buttons. Today, in the age of ever-shortening attention spans, it's even more important to know about these buttons and have them in your toolkit. So we're going to tell you about 4 of them. The first question you might ask is, how often do I need to hit one of these reset buttons? And a general rule of thumb is about 10 minutes. However, you do need to keep in mind your audience. If it's in the morning and you know your audience is intrinsically very interested in the topic you're given, you can lengthen that to about 15 minutes. But if it's right after lunch, it's a beautiful day outside, and you know your students didn't get much sleep the night before, you might want to shorten it to 5. And a word of warning before we dive into the 4 topics, you need to use a variety of these buttons. You can't just choose one and let it be your favorite. People become immune to your tricks, and they become less and less effective each time. Your attention graph will begin to look like this. So first button, tell a story or a joke. We all know that we're intrinsically wired to enjoy stories. As soon as someone says, let me tell you about a time when this happened to me, even the sleepiest audience member will start listening. Alternatively, you can tell a joke. We live in a world of FOMO, and if everyone else in the room begins laughing, you're going to want to know what everyone's laughing at and start paying closer attention. So we did prepare a couple example jokes for you guys. So, what lies at the bottom of the ocean and shakes a lot? A nervous wreck. Thanks, guys. And what does a nosy pepper do? It gets jalapeno business. Yeah. So maybe you don't want to use those exact jokes, but I think you guys all get the idea. So the second button.
Okay, so the second way to hit this reset button is to really get your audience involved. So before I move on to the specific, let's just take a quick poll in here. Everyone grab your phone and just type in this address, please.
Yeah, we need the link back.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. It's right there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so it seems like we have pretty even answers in here, but everyone seems to really appreciate the opportunities to practice public speaking in general. So I began to really think about this method because last quarter I had 8 a.m. classes every morning, and then it was really, really difficult for me to stay awake or pay attention during the lecture. But in my ethics class, which was also an 8 a.m. session, my professor always asked the students to take a poll on this very controversial ethical topics, like what do you think about the incest, or what do you think about like eating a dog? At 8 a.m. in the morning. And then it always like helped me wake up and then re-engage in the lecture. So from my experience, this is a highly effective methodology. Another things that you guys can try is you can make the audience move around the room if they look very sleepy or very not energized, or you can make them stretch a little bit. Or you can even make audience pair up into 2 or 3 different groups of like small size, 2 or 3 people, and discuss about the topics that you're presenting. So getting your audience involved is always more interactive and fun way compared to you just speak to the audience one way. It has a live element to it, which is going to hook your audience and then give your presentation more energy.
The third reset button is to change it up a little bit. The fact that I'm talking standing here and not with my team there made you all look up to me and pay attention to me. We pay attention to change. You probably aren't aware of the air condition which is humming in the background in this room right now, but when it stops, you will notice it. The second way to change things up a little bit in your presentation is to use a different form of visual aid. Instead of using a regular PowerPoint slide, I can choose to use a whiteboard or a flip chart to convey the same point, like this one, which talks about how best to structure your presentation by using effective audience re-engagement techniques at every 10-minute interval. Or this visual, which talks about the need for the reset button at all. The third effective way to change things up a little bit is to actually change your voice. I can stand here all day long, talk in my normal pace, or I can sit down, speak really slowly to convey a deep and profound thought. Or I can speak really fast to convey a sense of urgency around a certain topic of my interest. Or I can stare right into your eyes, yell at the top of my voice to convey my anger or excitement. But no matter how interesting or animated my voice is, you will get bored of it if you listen to the same voice for a long period of time. And that's when you can either introduce an audio or a video clip to infuse new voice into the room. You can even have a mini question and answer session in the middle of your presentation to engage the audience. Or you can have a new co-presenter.
Finally, the last way to re-engage your audience is to make a transition. So I noticed several of you, like Fatima, you looked up from your computer when I said finally. So why did you do that? The reason is, our brains are programmed to pay attention to these changes. We understand that there's new information that's coming, so we make a conscious effort to re-engage and focus on what the speaker's saying. So these are some of the common transitions that you can use. In addition, moving on, in contrast, or on the other hand. So, in conclusion, there are 4 ways that you can re-engage your audience. The first is to tell a joke or a story. Second, to get your audience involved, which could be giving them a poll or getting them to talk to each other. The third is to change it up, as Such demonstrated, with maybe your voice or your presentation style. And last is to make a transition. These tactics have never been more important than they are today, because with every presentation that we give, we have to compete with the ultimate distraction, the cell phone. Adam, for example, could have just gotten a message from his most recent Tinder match. And that is the bar that we have to compete with. That's the bar. So I hope next time you're giving a presentation, you keep this graph in mind and always remember the red reset button.